Apocalyptic events in media all make for very interesting stories, testing the limits of our survivability and asking what could happen in unique and devastating situations. Comic books are a breeding ground for all kinds of unique and devastating situations that can cause the apocalypse. Let's look at 10 of Marvel's cracks at apocalyptic universes, shall we? Number 10, Dark Ages. In this alternate Earth, after a battle with an ancient galaxy-attacking robot called the Unmaker, Doctor Strange opened a portal to create an EMP that would defeat the Unmaker. This worked, but he died before he could close it. This resulted in a huge EMP that shut off all electricity on Earth. This led to various wars in the post-apocalypse, killing billions of people. Eventually, things calmed down and people lived in various communities, surviving against attacks from vampires and werewolves. In Europe, however, the mutant apocalypse had taken over, and using brainwashed geniuses from around the world began attempting to reawaken the Unmaker for his own villainous deeds. Number 9. Hulk Future Imperfect. This won't be the first Hulk-related post-apocalypse on this list. Being virtually indestructible, most apocalyptic events don't really do much to physically harm the Incredible Hulk. This includes the possible future of the Hulk Future Imperfect storyline, where 100 years after a nuclear war turned the world into a wasteland, the Hulk became the ruler of humanity inside the city of Dystopia, which is a fitting name. This Hulk had the intelligence of Banner and double the strength of the current Hulk from being subjected to the radiation of the nuclear war. The city is policed by futuristic soldiers and the Dogs of War, which are robot dogs created by the Hulk to defeat the first Maestro, Hercules. The new Hulk Maestro is a nuclear, twisted, super powerful version of the character, and the world he inhabits is a very early 90s comic book post-apocalypse. 2 universes down, and I already want to let you know how much I appreciate you watching. Wow, you must be hitting that like and subscribe button a lot, huh? But don't stop though, it helps keep our universe from becoming an apocalypse! Number 8, Marvel Universe versus the Punisher. In this universe, the Punisher interrupts an arms deal that leads to him being doused in a chemical experiment that, for Frank Castle, makes him immune to infection, illness, and disease. The chemical weapon got into the water though, and then into the food, and starting in New York, it spread to the whole world through infected travelers from JFK Airport. And all this before it started turning people into cannibals. In this universe, Spider-Man was the first cannibal to be seen by the public, having defeated Rhino in Madison Square Garden, and then eating him in front of the viewers of a hockey game. After this, an outbreak spread and led to insane events, including a war against the cannibals, who became the dominant beings of this Earth. But the real star of the show is Frank Castle, the Punisher. This is one of the greatest and most brutal Punisher stories. It plays on many of his character flaws and strengths, but the story also shows him killing so many different heroes who you and I have always wanted to see him face. Number 7, Battleworld. Okay, yes, this is kind of cheating, but also not really. I mean, the apocalyptic event, the incursions, is part of the mainline continuity, but the Battleworld, created by God Emperor Doom, is also an alternate Earth. So I put it lower on the list just to be more fair, but this place and the story that it is part of are just really good. The world itself is made up of various domains, some of which were made up of the remains of other worlds and realities that are ruled over by barons appointed by God Emperor Doom. Some of these domains could have whole videos devoted to just their stories. What makes this place even cooler is that Doom's Battleworld was policed by a group known as the Thor Corps. It's a police force made up of different versions of Thor. I think it is just the coolest thing ever. But yeah, Battleworld. I don't know, let's debate this one down in the comments. Number 6, Hulk the End. In a world where a nuclear war has wiped out every single other human, Bruce Banner and the Hulk persona inside of him are basically forced to roam the wastes. It is an extremely deep and personal Hulk story. The main conflict in this story is the relationship between Bruce, who wants to finally be able to die, and the Hulk, who wants to prove he is the strongest being on planet Earth. A lot happens, and eventually, Bruce Banner suffers a heart attack that does in fact kill him, meaning the Hulk persona emerges and cannot revert back to Banner, or it will die too, leaving Hulk the only living sentient creature, which he slowly realizes means he is going to be feeling alone and cold for the rest of his life. This story is arguably the best of the end stories, so do yourself a favor and read it. Number 5, Age of Ultron. In this story, the Hank Pym created Ultron rules the world with his Sentinels, having killed all of the heroes other than Captain America, Spider-Man, Hawkeye, Iron Man, Emma Frost, She-Hulk, Luke Cage, Invisible Woman, and Wolverine. Ultron isn't even here in the time the story begins. He's actually in the future, where he already won, making sure this stays the case by remotely controlling the Vision in the current time. Gotta love time travel. From a hidden base in the Savage Land, some heroes go into the future to stop Ultron and are quickly defeated. But Wolverine, followed by Invisible Woman, goes to the past to kill Hank Pym. After realizing that this creates an even worse future, they go back again to stop themselves from killing Hank, instead getting Hank to put a failsafe inside Ultron that will stop him if he attacks again. So many things happen in the Marvel landscape because of this. Time travel always hurts my brain. Number 4. Marvel Zombies. When an alternate version of the Sentry that has been infected with the zombie-like virus invades the Earth of 2149, we get the Marvel Zombies story. Seems like a worthwhile trade-off to me. Unlike a few of the other stories on this list, this alternate reality story takes place during its apocalypse, which in this case makes for a much more interesting story, showing us how the superhero world is affected when you introduce a zombie infection. These zombies aren't your typical mindless zombies though. These zombies actually have seemingly more intelligence. It's just that they are possessed by a deep, uncontrollable hunger that takes precedent over almost any other emotion. The zombies quickly took over the world and eventually over their entire universe. Nuts. Number 3. Days of Future Past. In this alternate Earth story, the Sentinels were created by Bolivar Trask to save humanity from the threat of mutant existence. This mutant-fearing sentiment became shared by the public after the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants assassinated Senator Robert Kelly, causing the newly elected president to greenlight the Sentinel program. In a classic AI turn of events though, the Sentinels realized that the only way to truly save humanity was to rule over humanity. They took over the United States and began to kill or catch basically every single superhuman, even the ones that aren't mutants. Some of these mutants were held in mutant internment centers, and thank the Lord, because if they didn't do this, we wouldn't get this story, where a few heroes band together to send the mind of Kitty Pryde back to the past to reverse the event that led to the Sentinel Revolution. Number 2. Age of Apocalypse. More time travel. Okay, so the Age of Apocalypse came to be when the son of Xavier, the mutant Legion, set out back in time with a team of X-Men to kill Magneto before he could incite the anti-mutant movement. This went rather horribly when he instead killed his own father accidentally, causing his own existence to be impossible. This created a time paradox. In this splintered reality, Earth 295, Apocalypse began his world domination 20 years earlier, before there were no Fantastic Four, Avengers, or other heroes to stop him. Apocalypse took over North America with his 4 horsemen, who divided up the continent and ruled over other mutants, except for the new X-Men team led by Magneto, the unworthy, and those who opposed them. The story has way more happening in it that is almost impossible for me to cover in this one little segment. And it also was super important for the character and publication history of the mutants and X-Men. It's a well put together, intriguing story, and it deserves your eyes. Number 1. Old Man Logan and Hawkeye. You had to know I was going to talk about this. This is quite possibly my second favorite Marvel story after Marvel 1602. The apocalypse in this universe was basically all the villains winning. In the usual hero stories, villains face against their usual villains and are always defeated. But in Old Man Logan, the villains organize themselves where simultaneously, different villains and groups of villains will go against heroes that their abilities are best suited to deal with. For example, instead of fighting Spider-Man and his spider sense, Mysterio is sent against Wolverine. And using his illusions, he got Wolverine to murder all the other X-Men. It was pretty brutal. The conflict ended up turning the United States into an apocalyptic wasteland, ruled over by the Red Skull, with territories divided up and ruled over by a few different villains. Almost all the heroes are dead, or they changed sides, or they are working as mercenaries, or in the case of Logan, they are retired. The story set in this post-apocalyptic universe is just a work of art, and you gotta give it a read. Alrighty nerds, and other nerds, that's the list. If you liked or disliked what you saw here today, let me know in the comments down below. But for now, I'm Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerd. Peace out, nerds.